like installing a brand new heater sent by Randall. Like, just stuff like that was like really thoughtful. And I was like, God, I wish I could go there. But I mean, luckily, now we know why it didn't happen. But, you know, he just was he was good to us like that, and, you know, kind and thoughtful. And
you would say, like, he would try things and you would say no, and he would say, okay.
Yeah,
I
and
understand.
and he wouldn't really even try. I think he was a little intimidated to try. Because he knew how I felt, and he still just wanted, you know, to hang out and be around. And it was funny because he had texted me one night. It was like a Friday night, and it was a weird random, like, send me pictures. And I was like, send you pictures of what? Like, are you crazy? And I was like, oh, good night. And the next day, I had a birthday party at a trampoline park. And I see him. I hadn't seen him in years. And there he is. I'm like, this is so weird. And so he's like, oh, Nicole, I want you to meet Lala. And it was him and Lala and the kids. And that's when I said, oh, now I know who the mystery guy is, because I watched the show. And I was like, who's Lala dating? Who's this married guy Lala's dating? Who's this sugar daddy? Randall. And that's when oh, God, you know. It all made sense.
So you knew that Randall was Lala's sugar daddy before all the rest of us?
Well, yes. Before the, you know, whoever ran into them, because I don't think they were that, like, private and secret. But because he was very open about introducing. So I don't think they were really, I don't know how much they were hiding it. But, yeah. So I knew right away. I was like, oh. It was wild.
When he said, like, hey, send me pictures, like, what, that was, like, years after not speaking to him?
It had been a while. Yeah,
really?
It had been a while.
And this was, like, and then the next day you ran into him and Lala.
The absolute next day. Life is funny like that.
Weird in a lot of ways.
Yeah. And why? Why do you want pictures from me when you have her? And, yeah, but that, you know, I think that's his thing.
When he said send me pictures out of nowhere, you must have been like, this is weird.
Yeah, 100%. And I was like, send you pictures? Like, no, I'm not. I'm in bed.
Right, like to hear these things that apparently he was doing when he was with Lala. I mean, you were one of these people.
Right, except,
because
yeah.
He asked you for the pictures, you didn't send them, but technically he was with Lala and I guess married at the same time.
Right.
And still wanting pictures from you.
Yeah. So, and, you know, and he probably knew he wasn't getting anything from me because it had never happened before. So, you know, I'm sure there's a lot of girls that, you know, happily send the pictures.
I mean, listen, I have such a jaded view of this whole industry. I'm sure you do too. Like a realistic jaded view. I mean, I'm sure there are plenty of people that still in their 20s right now or even older are trying to make it in this business that I'm sure even knowing what is out there, if he said, send me pictures, I think they would.
I think he's engaged, isn't he? I heard he's like engaged and is in a serious relationship. So this girl must not must not be caring very much about everything she's hearing. So I find that wild.
I find that wild. And so just for a minute going back, because I didn't know any of this, this is when, so what? So he shows up, he has no sleep. I'm just I'm putting two and two together that he was on something. And then there was children and what? So he just said, I feel like going into the hot tub and stepped in.
He just like got into the hot tub with fully clothed, shoes and all.
Sat down, soaking wet.
Yeah, sat down in the hot tub. I was like, out.
Children are looking.
Sort of, you know, because I think I had the Powerpuff Girls there or something like, you know, I had entertainers there. So the kids had a lot going on. But definitely the adults are like, what in the hell is that? Like, what's going on? And a friend of mine, like, ushered him out. I was like, I'll get him out. Like, get him to his car.
And that was when that's when you walked away.
Yeah, I was like, okay, this is just not something I can have around my family and my kids. Like, you know, this is not safe and it's weird and, you know, I'm not into it.
Did you watch, like, the Randall scandal?
I did.
Which I was in.
Oh, yeah.
I was in, just FYI.
I love it.
So between that and the LA Times article, do you think, like, I mean, that is the definition of a narcissist, like someone that your air conditioning, like you said, breaks and then shows up and like that is kind of what they do, right? Like, because you're saying like, oh, he was charming, like maybe that was just part of the whole shtick, because like that's kind of what they do.
Yeah, I felt like a lot of it was he would do things for me in hopes to win me over, and that just, for me, it was more like it wasn't about the things. It was, like I knew his heart was good, and so I wanted to I try, but I don't like necessarily being bought either. So there's a lot of that.
Aren't you happy now knowing that nothing happened?
Yes. I mean, and I spoke to him a little bit over text when this first went down with he and Lala. And he said, give me some advice. And I was like, I don't know. I think you need to show, the good guy that I knew. Because I don't know where that guy is in all of this right now. You need to be showing that side of you and, what happened to that side of you. And I don't have any advice. I mean, you fucked up. you stepped in it big. I don't.
So after, that Tennessee and the pictures and all that, and it was okay, we're breaking up, and he reached out to you.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think he was reaching out to a lot of people, feeling like maybe it was, just to see if people were even answering him or talking to him. I don't know, because that must be pretty, panicky when something really bad goes down like that. I would imagine you would panic, who's still going to talk to me and who's not, right?
Yeah. Were you guys, though, in contact at that time? Or was this, had time gone by where he just reached out to you and said, hey...
A little bit of time had gone by because this isn't that they weren't together that long. So when I saw them together and then when he reached out in our whole lifetime of friendship, it's not that long, but it was a couple years.
Wow. I find that interesting.
He had reached out to me too when he signed on to do the show. So there was that. He did say, I'm going to go and I'm going to be on the show. I can't believe it. Da, da, da. And I was like, oh, that's amazing. Good luck. I love that show. And, cut to.
Interesting. And, I mean, when you ran into Lala and Randall and you were watching Vanderpump Rules and you're now like, wait a second.
Yeah.
The girl that I'm watching on the TV that has the sugar daddy that none of us know about, you're like, oh my God, did you want to run and tell people?
Well, I did. I froze, first of all, when he goes, I want you to meet Lala. And she turned around and I was like, it was one of those moments where I was like, you've got to be kidding. Everything stopped for a second. And I was like, oh, wow, okay. And then because I felt like, I had some loyalty as a friend, I wasn't going to say anything or tell anybody. And,
Wow.
Uh-huh.
Right, because, what are the chances?
I didn't have a podcast then.
And what are the chances that, Nicole Eggert from Baywatch and Charles in Charge is actually watching Vanderpump Rules? Did he know that you watched the show and would know who? Because a lot of people who think, wouldn't know who Lala was.
Yeah, I don't know if he...
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if he put those things together or if he just was like, oh, hey, good friend, you meet each other. But, yeah, I was watching. And everybody's watching.
Everybody's watching. And and so when this all went down and he just, and the whole thing, and she was dumping him and saying, and now I'm discovering all these skeletons, were you shocked? You must have been like, okay, this is a thing. It's in all the blogs, and now he's reaching out to me for advice. That's kind of...
Well, and it was in the very beginning of it, so I didn't know exactly, there wasn't all the proof. There was her gut feeling, and she was leaving. And I don't think she had quite moved out yet. I think it was right in the beginning of that.
Wow.
But then I think once she got all those DMs and she really got all the proof she needed, I think there was no help me. There was no give me advice. There was no coming back from that.
And what did you say to him? Just show the good side.
Yeah, I said, I don't know. Well, where's that guy? Where's the good guy that I know?
Listen, my experience, because Randall's been on this podcast twice.
He has.
That's how I got involved in the Randall scandal. They reached out to me because they're like, you've interviewed Lala many times. You've interviewed him. And I also interviewed Amber Childers, just all unrelated, his first wife, just because she was an actress. She was in You. I loved the show You. So they were like, we just, and then, also I do commentary. This is what I do for a living. So it was just all a perfect storm of we need you to be in this. I'm like, fine. But I really saw, a great side of him for my own personal interactions, which now it's I don't know. Because, I did have a strange situation with him myself, right? Now that you know what you know, I did have a situation where I'm I knew he was lying to me about something. I've already talked about it on air. It's not I'm trying to hide it. It's a whole story.